Okay, I'm here today with Coach Josh Smith. I'm just going to jump right into the interview, Coach. I just want to get right into it. Coach, how long have you been coaching, and what sports do you coach? Or have you coached?
Right. I've been coaching for 5 years here at Central High School.
Okay.
I've been a lot of things. I've been the head middle school baseball coach. I've been the JV boys basketball coach. I've been on the football team. I've done wide receivers, outside linebackers, running backs, and wide receivers. And now this year was my first year doing girls basketball.
Wow, you've been busy.
Yeah,
You've
no
busy
doubt.
and well-rounded coach.
Yeah, no doubt.
Since you coach in so many sports, what made you decide to get into coaching?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I didn't even want to be a teacher, to be honest with you. I wanted to go off and do something artistically, to be honest with you. And my mom kind of convinced me, hey, you need to go into teaching. It's always going to be in demand, always going to be something. And ever since I was real little, sports had always been kind of what defined me. And always looking back, there were always a few coaches that had really invested in my life. And once I started teaching, I realized, with my student teaching, well, I can get involved with these kids' lives on a deeper level. And honestly, you talk to any only coach or only teacher, it's such a better relationship when you can teach the kid and coach the kid. You can really get to know them on a deeper level. So what made me want to be a coach, I guess, is the ability to invest in young people's lives, because I can see the difference in me, and they invest in me as much as I invest in them. So it's a really neat two-way street there.
And that's a great answer, Coach. That's a great answer. You said you had a lot of people who influenced your life. Right now, do you have a coaching mentor?
I do, actually. Darius Smiley.
Okay.
And the coolest thing about Coach Smiley, I got the opportunity to work under him in the basketball program here when I first came in. First year teaching, 23 years old, didn't know anything about the coaching world. And the first thing he really told me was, you got to find your coach's voice. And I really didn't know what that meant. But it's the ability to I guess praise when it's needed, but also to correct when needed as well.
That's very important.
And Coach Smiley now got the ability and the opportunity to work with him on the football team as well. But the big thing he always let me do, even as an assistant coach, he always let me address the entire team. So he was always grooming me for an opportunity to be a head coach, even as an assistant. So I thought that was awesome.
That's great. That's a real great answer. So you described a little bit about how he told you to find your voice. So what would you describe as your unique coaching style?
Okay, my coaching style is high energy at all times.
Very high energy coach.
Absolutely, absolutely. Up tempo. If they're going through a drill, 50 to 70% of the time, I'm going through the same drill with them. If I'm wanting them to do something correctly, I want to show them. I want them to do it, and then be able to correct on the fly as well. So coaching philosophy, and my coaching style and my expectation for the girls now is EYG, everything you got, every day. Yeah.
That's a great answer again, Coach. You are a very high energy coach. I think it's working out well right now, but you're not so high that you get out of character. You stay in character, you stay calm, but when it's time to praise your girls or praise your players, you do a very well job of that.
I appreciate that.
Like I said earlier, you said you've coached a lot of different sports, and I think right now you're coaching multiple sports also, right?
Absolutely.
How do you go about juggling multiple sports?
I'll tell you, it's not easy. When we were finishing up basketball this year, even during the region tournament, in the mornings we had football workouts on the football field, Maroon Dawn workouts, which are one workout, and it's not easy. You lose a lot of sleep, but what you got to think is you got to think the big picture here. You got to think of it as okay, I'm definitely investing in these girls. We're going for something here, but you're building for the future with the football as well. And so when you're juggling multiple sports, I think the most important thing, which I do not do a good job of, I need to improve on this, but when you're in one sports season, that needs to be your main focus. That needs to be your main focus, because if it's not your main focus, you're taking away from the kids you're really investing in at that time, in that season. And the good thing about football was the times never overlapped. It was just two sports in one day,
Gotcha.
which you kind of got to switch your brain from one sport to the next. But It's not easy, and I haven't done it perfectly, but I would say from here on going forward is really focusing on one at a time.
That's not bad. In the summer, do you think it'll be easier or harder to juggle those type things?
In the summer, it will be more difficult, I'll say, because we'll have football in the morning, and in the way I've scheduled our summer practices, you'll have basketball immediately following. So I'll be in the weight room twice a day, and I'll be on the field and then on the court afterwards as well. So, but if you're going to win, you have to put that in the front.
That's true.
So.
That's true. And then the players need to see you putting in that time too, so they'll
Right.
know the standard and they'll know what is asked of them.
That's absolutely right. The expectation is there.
So since you coach multiple sports, I'm sure you deal with some athletes that play multiple sports. How do you
Right.
feel about athletes that play multiple sports?
I encourage it 100%. I think if you look on a lot of college rosters too, guys that are being recruited for Division I football, most of them played basketball in high school because there are so many. I think there's so many movements in each sport that are similar. The stance that you're in, the way you stay low. I mean, no one ever just bends over in any sport. And I think the perseverance that comes, with playing a football or a basketball can translate over to baseball. And also I think it's important that you give certain muscles a break
Right.
sometimes. Because if all I ever do, not that I wouldn't love to do this, but if all I ever did was just shoot jump shots all day long, that's when you start seeing some rotator cuff problems. And you go to baseball, all you do is throw the baseball for all year long. You have to give those certain muscle groups a break, which is when those other sports come in, it gives you that opportunity to give yourself a break. A lot of dedicated athletes are like, nope, I'm going to be in the gym at all times, which we all would love to be. But sometimes I think giving those muscle groups a break is extremely important as well.
Have you ran into any issues with players playing two sports? Like, have they had any trouble trying to get back and forth and participate in both sports equally?
We have. Whenever we do spring practice for football, we do miss out on some track athletes, and we miss out on a few baseball athletes when they go deep into the playoffs, which we definitely want them doing. We want them making these runs because, if you're making a deep run in baseball, you have that playoff experience, which we want for football, which we want for basketball. But yeah, there are some overlaps, and in the past we've made long runs in football. It's hard to get kids out to basketball, and then it suffers. But I think that's when your summer programs really come into effect. If you really hit that basketball hard in the summertime, all June, it's better than taking all June off and all July off, and then just only concentrating on football and then trying to come back. So yeah, we have run into a few issues there, though.
Okay, Coach, that's a really good answer. My next question would be, like you said, you're coaching girls now and boys now. Explain some of the differences between coaching the two sets of groups, the difference in dynamics.
I'll be honest with you. At the beginning of this year, I didn't think I could do girls. Man.
This is your first time coaching girls?
First time ever coaching girls. Wow. And honestly, I
seem to enjoy it.
I really enjoyed it. Oh my goodness! By the end of this thing, I was like, I don't know if I'll go back to boys. And the biggest difference, I would say, and me as a guy, I can relate to this too, is when I tell the girls and when I instruct them on something, I'm the expert. Like, they immediately say, okay, we're going to go do that. With guys, I did this in high school too, man, well, why do I have to do it that way? Why do I have to do it? Why is this the best reason? And here's the thing, a coach that's not as experienced doesn't have that explanation. Doesn't say, okay, man, this is why we're doing it. Because with some guys, if you just say, we're doing it because that's why I said it, sometimes that's not always the best answer for a young player. But
coaches have to be careful with that too.
You're exactly right. The biggest difference was with direction, but also in the classroom. Man, it was crazy. This year, every year I've ever coached, grade reports all the time. And with the girls, I mean, their GPAs were skyrocketing. I don't know if that's just where we're at right now, or if it's a guy-girl thing, because there's a lot of smart guys too that we teach. But it was a lot of fun, and the one big battle though is you have to convince girls to lift in the weight room. You have to convince them that's the one thing they won't just go do. You have to convince them that hey, you don't have all that testosterone in your body. You're not going to get huge. Don't worry about that. It's to get that lean muscle mass. But convincing them with the guys, you say, hey, if you want to look good in your
Yeah.
uniform, why don't you go pump a little bit?
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to convince them. But with girls, that's always more difficult.
I can see that. I can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, especially
Yeah.
trying to get them in that weight room. Women just feel fear they're just going to like just blow up like they're
Right.
some bodybuilder or something.
Yeah,
That's just not
that's
the case.
exactly.
So like you've been coaching for how many years? You say you've been
It's
coaching?
five. This will be my sixth next year, so
6 years.
5 complete seasons.
Okay, so about half a decade. What's the most challenging thing you faced so far as a coach?
Okay, I would definitely say dealing with parents. You know, and if it's, let's give the example of basketball. Every parent that comes to the game wants the best 4 players on the court and their child. And it is so difficult sometimes to convince a parent that it's in their child's best interest not to be on the floor in certain situations. Everybody wants to win. Not everybody gets to play the same amount, and trying to convince certain players that their role on the team is what it is. And it comes from evaluation of the player, you know, work ethic, and all that goes into effect. So dealing with parents that are unhappy or unsatisfied with what you're doing is always a difficult challenge.
Okay.
Always a difficult
I
challenge.
could definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
That was a perfect segue. I'm gonna bring that right into my next one is your policy with parents. Like, do you have certain things that you won't discuss with parents, like playing time? What's your policy on that?
Okay, with parents, I really love Coach Rico Zachary, who's now the head football coach at Billerica, gave me this, and I've really run with it. It's called the 24-hour rule. And following a competition or prior to a competition, you don't speak with a parent for 24 hours. So 24 hours before a game, that's all preparation. I really don't have time to discuss anything other than, hey, can we get a pregame meal? That's it. After a game, 24 hours, because right after a game, and this happened to me a couple times this season, a parent comes up and just bum rushes you, and why is my kid not playing? Well, both of our heads are not cool at this moment.
That's true.
I'm either at
Not
the
the right
high,
time,
I'm either
yeah.
at the highs or lower lows. We've either won or lost, and let's let cooler heads prevail. Let's take 24 hours. Let's sleep on it one night, and let's get up tomorrow and talk about it. And that also gives me enough time to prepare. You know, whether I need to get an administrator involved, whether I need another coach in there with me, or you know, whether I need to, you know, put together a small film package to say, this is why your child is not playing as much. So the 24-hour rule to me is the best policy.
Got you. I think that's a real good policy. We exercise that same policy
Absolutely.
too. It
It's
works
so
wonders,
important. So important.
So like you said, you've been coaching for a little while now. What would you say your biggest strength is?
I think one of my biggest strengths, and you know, you hate to be arrogant and talk about what you do well, but I think that my biggest strength would be being able to relate to the players that I coach. I think it's so important immediately to find out what are your players interested in, what do they want to do with their future, so it gives you a better opportunity to coach them, I think. You know, if you can get to know your players on a personal level and build that relationship early, a lot of those pitfalls in the end kind of don't find their way in. But if you're never able to speak to your players, I mean, if all you can ever do is just coach them, because I know everyone's heard this, but they won't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. And so I really, really think that with the ability for me to build that relationship with my players in the beginning, I think that's one of my biggest strengths.
Okay, that's a real good, solid strength. What would you say is the number one thing that you need to improve on the most as a coach, other than
balancing the sports?
Because I know that's something you'll probably struggle with for the rest of your career as long as you're
doing 2 or 3.
sports,
Yeah. I would say being able to manage my time as efficiently as possible. Like, I mean, of course, we'll have a detailed practice plan, but those 15 minutes before practice and then that hour after practice, you know, what am I going to do in that hour after practice to make sure that I am getting done things efficiently so I can get home to my family?
Gotcha.
That's my big thing is that hour after practice, you know, I'm waiting for kids to get picked up. I can already go ahead and start looking at scout film then. I can be the opportunity to do that. I can go and start getting scout reports done, printing them out, go ahead and get them in their locker so I don't have to do it at home and take away time from the family. That'd be my big thing is my time management, that those few minutes I get before practice and then that hour afterwards before I gotta go be the man of the house. So
That's a good skill, coach. That's a skill that transcends sports.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that'll help at home too.
no, my goodness, you're
Definitely
right.
will. So this was your first year being a head coach or on a varsity level.
Right.
You got to, I guess, dangle around with picking your staff.
Yes,
And I guess you're still, moving things around, adding people and stuff like that. So,
absolutely.
so when you're looking for staff members, what's some of the qualities you look for?
First thing I look for is what sort of character do you have? Is there anything that would make you influence these students, these student athletes in a negative way? Is there anything you've done in your past, or is there anything that you're doing right now that is just something that if our students saw you doing that they would think, oh my gosh, it's my coach doing that. Secondly, is just flat out knowledge of the game. Like, I want to know if I'm over here barking at a referee during a timeout, can you pick up the clipboard and can you go ahead and get us in what defense or offense we need to be in? Because you know as well as I do, when you're coaching the heat of a game, they hit a quick timeout. You might go talk to the official for 15 seconds. Well, that's 15 seconds. Your players are sitting there. Can you go ahead and get them started? So what is your character? What is your knowledge of the game? And do you care about the kids? Do you really care about them? I've got an assistant coach right now who's still learning the game, but her care for our players is second to none. She cares about them. Got another assistant coach we're excited to bring on next year. That's going to take our program to the next level. That her knowledge of the game and her character and her care for the kids are all three at a maximum. And so I'm going to be able to learn a lot from that coach next year. So I just can't wait.
Just a quick follow-up question to that. With coaching girls, was it important to you to have a female assistant coach?
It's imperative. Have to. Even if it's before the game, they're in the locker room and it's 15 minutes on the clock and it's time to get warm-ups going. I'm not just going to rush on in there and then they're all changing and that's lawsuit waiting to happen. So, hey, coach, go get them. Go get them. And also, she can speak to them in a way that I can't.
That's true.
There's things that she can communicate, not to go into details there, but things that she can communicate with them that I just will not.
Got you.
I think coaching girls, and this will be my first year doing it, not being an expert at it, but understanding having that dynamic in the locker room too, almost like a motherly figure, because I'm in there just ripping and roaring on them a lot of times, and she's able to come back behind me and kind of play the good cop with them too. So it was really nice, good dynamic.
Yeah, it was. I feel like that was a really smart move. That's been one of the main concerns that a lot of coaches I've talked to have had, just in today's world and in today's society, about either coaching boys, especially with coaching girls, about how they always leave their office door open if one of their players is in, how they always have a female going to the locker room first. And it's just a different dynamic, stuff that you don't really have to think about with boys. With girls, you have to think about those things.
Yeah, with guys, I'm coaching them forever. I'll kick the dang door in and walk in on them. And if they're doing
sometimes it's needed.
And if they're doing something wrong in there, like if it's before practice and they're goofing off, man, that's baseline immediately. With the girls, you bust on in there, issue there. But I like you said that too, because I'm the same way. Open door policy. If you're having a one-on-one meeting with a player, that door is always open. Now, if it needs to be a closed door meeting, you've got another coach in there, you got an administrator in there, whoever else you got, another adult. So always got to cover all your bases and keep yourself accountable.
That's true. You're starting your basketball program here. What is the main thing that you want to choose as your foundation to build your program on?
Our foundation, kind of like I said earlier, we're an all-out effort at all times. We will never quit, even if we're down 40 in a game, which we got down a few times this year, 40.
Came back a few times too.
That's right. That's right. Those 5 on the floor are going to lay their heart on the floor no matter what. Not even talking X's and O's. X and O, you can talk, okay, we're going to do this press, we're going to do that. Well, all of that is great and wonderful, but if you don't have the ability to give everything you got within that press, within that offensive set, you can draw up the best play, the best set that the San Antonio Spurs run out here, and your team can run it to the tees. But if there's no effort, there's no intensity behind it, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I think the last thing I want to build it on effort. I want to build it on trust. Can I trust you when I'm not there? Can I trust you if I'm not in the gym? One of my assistant coaches in there, that you are still going to go as hard as if I was standing right beside you. And we're not there yet. But if we can ever get to that point, when student athletes start taking ownership of their own ability and their own desire to get better, I think that's when you'll really see a program take off.
That's true. I definitely agree with that. So this is a question we've kind of hinted at, or you kind of hinted at a little bit, with coaching being demanding, especially with you coaching multiple sports and having a home, like having a wife and having a newborn or recently born daughter, lovely daughter at home.
Yep.
How is it going with balancing that home life and that coaching life?
That's always,
especially with a lot of new changes, because you walked into a head coaching role and a father role this year.
That's always a delicate dance right there, to try and balance that. One thing that me and my wife are really intentionally trying to do is being intentional in the moments that we have together. Whether that be sitting down and eating Taco Bell on our coffee table while watching the evening news. We'll turn the news off, eat, and have that conversation. When we have an anniversary come up, or when we have a special event come up, we're going to take time, drop the baby off somewhere, and we are going to go to that event, whether it's scheduled, doesn't matter what's going on, we're going to make sure that we are intentional in that time. And with my daughter, I've been changed forever with that. I know you know that with your kids too. Just been changed forever with that. You have the most precious gift that you have the ability to take care of, and with her, what we like to do, we'll split roles. Like, hey, Monday night, I'm taking her all night. I'm feeding. I'm giving the bath. I'm taking her to bed. Which really hurts sometimes when we have late practices, because then we don't get those opportunities. We don't get those special times because our bedtime's 7:30. We're practicing until 8 here. So what we'll do on those days is I'll be the one who does her in the morning. I'll take her to daycare. I'll be the one who gets her dressed, and
trying to get any bit of time.
Any bit of time we can get is what we want. And I think me and my wife this summer, I think we're going to go to a couples coaching clinic where we actually don't do anything with basketball. Just
I know it's when you talk about
how to be married and how to be together whenever there's a season. So
that's something for me that I want to do in the future, and especially if I'm ever blessed to move into an athletic director position or a head coach position, something I can have my whole staff go to with their spouses, because I feel like that's something that's very important. Because if something goes wrong, that type of relationship can put stress on the other relationship.
Oh my goodness.
So your at-home relationship can put stress on your coaching relationship, and your coaching stuff can put stress on your at-home life. So that balance is a very important thing, and I'm just glad you're keeping a healthy balance.
Absolutely.
I've seen that.
We
Y'all,
have to.
beautiful family.
Well, thank you.
And it seems like she loves coming to the games.
She does.
She supports you, and I think that's a great thing you got going. I hope y'all continue to move forward.
Me too. She's our biggest fan, man. She'll jump on those referees in a heartbeat, and she'll cheer those girls on a heartbeat. So I'm just so thankful that my wife is so supportive of me and any endeavor she tries to go, and I try to support her as gung-ho as I can as well.
Okay, so we're almost wrapping up here. We're getting towards the end. So next year, you're still going to have a young team. What do you think your biggest challenge is going to be coming up next year?
Our youth is always going to be a challenge. We just graduated 3 seniors, and as you heard at the banquet the other night, there's a void in our team now of leadership, and this is something across the board, I think, in the United States, to be honest with you, with athletic teams. Those 3 seniors that we had built a foundation and truly led our team this year. I'm hoping, and I'm seeing some good things with training and open gyms. Got a rising junior that's going to be a phenomenal player, and she's starting to get a voice of her own. But I think being able to lead 7 rising sophomores in a varsity season is easier than leading 7 freshmen.
Yeah.
They have that experience, but we hope that you hope that that experience those freshmen got is positive and not negative, and not, oh, we've arrived,
Yeah.
we started as freshmen.
Yeah.
So kind of just making sure, because there was a culture change with the girls program this year,
There was.
but we need to make sure that that culture is maintained and never digresses back to the season that was before. So the leadership role, and then complacency is where we have to keep driving to our main goals.
Real good answer, Coach. Real good answer. And last question for today. This is a future type question.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself or your program in the next 10 years?
All right. In 10 years, which is a long way down the road.
Can you imagine your daughter being 10?
Oh my goodness.
Think about that, right?
That's scary. That's scary.
It's gonna come fast, but
Yeah. I would like to see our program from the elementary school level to the varsity and even to the college level. It all look the same. And what I mean by that is our elementary schools feeding our rec programs, our rec programs directly feeding the middle school program, that middle school program feeding a 9th grade JV and varsity level. I want things to be like clockwork, and I want everyone on the same page. I want to know those elementary school PE teachers. I want to have a personal relationship with those rec league coaches, and I've already got a really good relationship with our middle school coaches. And so I just want to make sure that pipeline just maintains for success on this floor. And that would be amazing. And I think if you do that, I think the wins take care of themselves. We want to compete every year for one of the top 2 spots in the region, because we want to host a home playoff game, because that's an automatic advantage that you have. You're already playing a 3-4 from another region and on your home floor for your home crowd. So in 10 years, I see this program, if I'm still blessed enough to be here, I see this program being fed from the elementary level to the high school level and competing year in and year out for a top 2 seed.
if they're developing feeder programs, I think that's just a necessity in high school these days. If you want to compete at a high level, if you're not a private school and you can't recruit, then you're going to have to develop some type of feeder program.
Absolutely,
So I think,
no doubt about it.
I think that's a great goal to have. And Coach, I hope that you continue to pursue that goal. I think you're doing a great job right now.
Well, I
I've known
appreciate
you for
it.
a little over a year now.
Yeah.
You've been a great coach. You're great for these girls. And I'm just looking forward to seeing you grow and hopefully being a part of it.
Oh, you'll definitely be part of it.
Thank you. Thank you for this interview.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.